Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo+Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow.
What's happening, lady?
Just it's the holidays, Nico. You know what that looks like, right? All the things.
Wild craziness.
Yes. Yeah. Traveling.
Well, it's interesting because every time I do a podcast, it seems like the first thing that comes to mind is like, how did I interact or engage with this person first? Because I've done my podcast, I would say, differently than a lot of people, where they just get on a bunch of podcasts, or have a bunch of people like that aren't that familiar with them or
Right.
something like that. Just with like podcast agencies out there. Mine's just been always very organic. It's been built off of my brand, and it's built by like all the relationships that I already have and then continue to accrue. So interestingly enough, is I don't remember the first point of contact, but we were having some conversations quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And you were sharing a little bit of your story, and would love to get into that, obviously.
Yep.
But just didn't work out for a while, and then we ended up speaking at the same event, ironically enough, and then we just started to engage a little bit more, and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about that driving here. Where did I first meet you? I have no idea. I think I just found you on Instagram.
Mm.
And because you and I talk the same language
Yeah.
about vision and purpose in life, I just started liking your stuff and reached out and said, "Hey, can we have a talk?"
Yeah.
That was a good 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because I think it was like right as I was starting. So yeah, here we are.
Here we
God
are.
doesn't make mistakes.
No, definitely no. I think especially now in this world, Nico, so many of us who are on the same mission are finding each other faster, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely a purpose to that.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool, like, connecting with aligned people.
Yep.
Even I was just on a quick call before this, and just one little quick thing that she said, it was just so profound, where she was talking about, she had a wild experience, and I was like, wow, I just want to honor you for going through that experience, because most people wouldn't. She's like, I think they would. She's like, I think most people rise to the challenge when they're presented that challenge. And I was like, whoa, that is a really cool reframe. Because I tend to think that, like, most people are not cut out for like entrepreneurship and the hard challenges and stuff like that. But it's like, if they were presented challenging opportunities where they were forced to grow, there's a good chance that they would. So I don't know, just it's cool when you get connected with the right people, and like you said, it seems to be happening quicker.
I think there's some
discernment is stronger these days.
I can definitely feel movements happening.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I have a real passion for helping young adults. And it's what I'm seeing as my passion project, because I want to create a movement around them changing their perspective earlier on in their life. And when I say young adults, I'm talking like, early 20s to mid 30s, somewhere in there, where they're getting out and adulting, trying to figure it out. I think there's a lot of focus on kids right now, especially around mental health. I know we're going to talk about my story.
Yes, please.
But not so much about that age group. I think they're kind of forgotten, and I think they need a lot of help. So
I think today more than ever, I mean, it's so on my awareness all the time, but social media, just because I'm so immersed into it.
Yes.
I could only imagine what that would be like growing up on social media.
Yeah.
So dive into your story a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so I help people write their vision. What I tell people is I help people get their someday plan out of their head and into clear written form, because it helps with a lot of things when you get it to that point. And especially if I get them to put like timelines on things. Because most of us don't do that, and 3 years can go by and you feel like you haven't really progressed towards what you really want. And the reason I do that is because I was taught to do that when I was in my late 20s, because I was working full time, doing the 9 to 5 gig. This was the 80s, Nico, so we were all doing that, right? Get the degree, get the job.
Mm.
And I didn't do the 9 to 5 thing very well.
Mm.
And I had a mentor tell me, you can create your life to look however you want. You just have to get clear on what that is. And so I took a day and I wrote it all out.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to work from home, especially when we started kids. I knew that I wanted to build a residual income so we could travel a lot, all the stuff. And so with that, I know now what I didn't know then, Nico, is I was kind of lining myself up with God's plan and listening to him. Um, and it started unfolding. And so that's what I've been teaching people forever. So fast forward, so unofficially, I've been doing this for over 30 years. The past 10 years, I lost my husband to suicide. And then 3 years after that, lost my 25-year-old son also to suicide. So, what I also know now that I didn't know then is God knew that this was coming and that I was getting prepared for this mission.
Mm.
And so, I'm more passionate now than I've ever been about helping people have a vision for their life, have hope, know what their purpose is, because a lot of people don't, and they drift really easily,
Mm.
right? So,
That's a pertinent word there, is drift.
yes. And I use it a lot because when I use it, it's a word that I think people are thinking how they're feeling, but they can't articulate it. And when I say drifting, especially young adults, I go, that is exactly what's happening, right? Is I'm totally drifting. And it's just not good,
No.
right? So if I can get a young adult to sit down and really think through, okay, what is it that I really want? No matter what their circumstances are at the moment, or anybody really, it gives them some hope that they can make some changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with social media, they're up against a lot of comparison. And what a lot of them tell me, which really breaks my heart, is they tell me they feel like they're already behind at 22. That's how I just think that's so debilitating to have that feeling. But, they get on social media and they see all their friends crushing it, making $1 million at the age of 12, and they think, wow, I am just so far behind. That's an overwhelming feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
I resonate with that. I've been having some conversations recently distinctly about urgency.
Mm-hmm.
How there's this like general sense of urgency,
Right.
which could be also just explained as
Yep.
feeling behind.
Right.
And yeah, you see these 12-year-olds, whatever,
Right.
unboxing toys and
Right.
making millions of dollars.
Right.
It's amazing. There's a
Yeah.
lot of great opportunity out
Yes.
there. And I think about this from time to time. It was probably a couple months ago now. I just kind of took a little bit of a break. I was just more so immersed into some deep work,
Yeah.
and it was so refreshing of
Yeah.
just, I was still working a lot, but I was like, my phone was just not on me for like a
Mm-hmm.
week, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Love when I do those type of
Mm-hmm.
things.
It
And
makes me sad that the kids won't ever have that feeling, because I grew up that way.
yeah,
I mean, cell phones, not a thing, not even a thought, I don't think.
mhm.
If we left the house, we left the house. You told your friend, I'm going to meet you here. There was no texting saying, hey, I'm going to be late or I can't make it. It was, you just showed up. Whole different world.
When I got back on,
Mm-hmm.
I like, it was very noticeable. I was like
Mm.
already FOMO, like, oh, I wasn't invited to that thing. Oh, I didn't like,
You
and mind
missed,
you, I
you
was like,
missed all this stuff.
of course, I intentionally missed out
Yeah.
on stuff. Yet I get on there, I'm like FOMO,
Yes.
just like instant comparison.
Right.
And that's what, like you
Yeah.
said, these children that are molding and adapting, their minds are developing
Right.
while they're trying to figure out the world and themselves and everything, and then they have all that to deal
Right.
with, and getting, I mean, I would say more addicted every single day. I
Yeah.
feel myself getting more addicted
Yep.
every single day.
Yeah, I can do that easily too. Yeah. It's not only, I think, so much the FOMO thing, I think it's also an escape,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Like if you're dealing with something really challenging in your life, or you're about to tackle a day of a bunch of stuff you really don't want to do, I think it's really easy to go, I'm just going to scroll through Instagram for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm. Yeah. Mm.
So what's something that we can focus on? How can we help the situation at
Hmm.
large?
We got to start so early with our kids. I feel that more than ever right now, because I'm a grandparent. And
Mm.
so I see, and they're 2 and 4 right now. Um, and I am more worried for them than I was for my own children because of everything they're starting their life with. But I'm very encouraged because my daughter and her husband are really aware of how fast they can take to the screens. It's scary. Have you ever seen this kid with a cell phone in their hand? Nico, it's like they've always had it. They know how to maneuver that thing so fast. So I think number one, to answer your question, we've got to be so aware, so much more aware of our surroundings, especially if you have kids in your life, their surroundings, what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what you're giving them device wise to pacify them or keep them busy so you can do other things, right? Um, now more than ever, I think it's just awareness. We've got to really be conscious of everything we're doing.
Mm.
So God, and on top of that, we've now walked into a world where we talk more now about mental health, getting help, going into counseling. We never used to talk about those things, which is encouraging.
Yeah,
But because we are being so much more open about it now, now we're becoming more aware of statistically how many of us were mentally abused, physically abused growing up, so much of that. So you have to be super aware of that kind of stuff too. What
yeah,
kind of environment physically are you putting yourself in and them?
yeah. I think that's the thing that constantly comes to me is inputs.
Yeah,
Like just like you said, being aware of inputs, whether
right.
that's environments, whether that's people, substances, technology, devices.
Words, just what you say.
Yeah, whatever's coming in, that's exactly what's
Yeah.
gonna be, like, amplified coming out.
Yes.
'Cause, I have some friends that they had their first little one, and I was over their place for a little birthday shindig, and, um, it was interesting how he was talking about is you have to be very conscious and aware, like, what you're feeding them. Like,
Right.
yes, it's so much easier to just they're screaming and crying, and you got a million things to do, and it would be so easy to just, "Hey, look at this screen."
Yep.
But know the repercussions that comes with that. And
Right.
then also in that sugar, he's like, think
Yeah.
like sugar
Yeah.
and the food that we have that is just like, engulfed in sugar these days.
Mhm.
Like it is the most addictive it has ever been.
Mhm.
And think about what happens when you give a child that has a developing mind
Right.
and a developing body that type of addictive
Right.
substance, how
Mhm.
quickly they're just on it and they want
Right.
it more and more and
Right.
more and more.
Yes. And I'm seeing a lot of more awareness about that recently too. I'm sure you are. Um, yeah. So, and if you get around a child and you give him sugar, like the 4-year-old
Yeah.
grandson, he just goes, and he's nuts anyway. I mean, he's high energy,
Yeah.
right? And give him a little sugar, and it's nuts. So yeah, he doesn't get any of that very often.
If you had a child right now, how would you approach it?
Well, if I were a mom right now, gosh, it's so hard because you can kind of monitor mostly in your own home, but not so much when they're with friends or in a bigger environment or at a party.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard, Nico, because you don't want to become that parent that becomes the
Yeah.
hey, I don't want Johnny to have this, that, or the other thing when all the other kids are, getting M&Ms and cakes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think we have to be advocates for them. So, we have to say, hey, here's our rules. We need to kind of have you follow that. Um, but it's hard. I will tell you, it's hard as a grandparent because I'm not the mom. Um, so I voiced my opinion very carefully,
Yeah.
but I'm reminded that
Exactly.
I'm
Now
not the
you're
mom. Yeah, yeah, it's challenging, but I feel for them. I truly do because it's a whole different world. But you know, I'm encouraged by the fact that they are again talking more with each other about what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
I think women have always been somewhat good about that, but men not so much.
No.
I think that's changing. Don't you see that? I'm
Yeah.
sure you do because of the
100%.
groups you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go back, to isolate,
Hmm.
to numb, uh, but there's a lot more opportunity, I feel at,
Right.
and a lot of men stepping up
Yep.
in their leadership,
I
in their
think so.
emotional intelligence that are guiding the way.
Hmm.
And every time another man steps out and does guide the way in
Hmm.
some capacity, gives it a lot, gives the next man
Right.
a little bit easier to
Right.
step up
Right.
and do the same thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's a journey for
Hmm.
sure, and I think we all just got to collectively continue to work to help each other.
Right. Were you raised in a household that you were allowed to have emotions?
That's a good question. There's a lot of love in our family. We didn't talk a lot about our
Okay.
emotions, to be honest,
Mm.
and that's something that I've gotten to be able to like get a lot better at
Yeah.
and expressing. For a long time, I didn't.
Mm.
For a long time, I didn't. I mean, we loved each other and we expressed that, but
Right.
like if there was challenges,
Hmm.
those were a little less
Right.
expressed.
Yeah. Because most men, especially men my age, will tell you that they were very much raised in a household where men were taught to be tough, suck
Yeah,
it up, not show emotion, definitely not cry. So it's harder, I think, for older gentlemen to open up
yeah,
because that was so taboo,
yeah.
right?
And that's just, I
Yeah.
think about that with my parents and I love them to pieces, and um, yeah, just we're all grown up at different times, and we've experienced life differently, and
Right.
so we just have to honor that with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like just love each other and communicate well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's 90% of the battle right
Yeah.
there. Let's
Yes.
dive into vision a little bit more,
Yeah.
switching gears a little bit. You do have
Yeah.
your event coming up, and just would love to hear a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more of your approach on
Mm-hmm.
vision and why that's so important.
I love
And
talking about this.
yeah,
Um, so, like I told you, unofficially, I've been teaching this for over 30 years. And then 12 years ago, I thought, because I used to be in the industry of network marketing, so I had a really big team of people. And I taught them how to write their vision because I knew they would have needed to have it. And so for many, many years, that's what I did as a part of their training. Then 12 years ago, I thought, if it works for them, I could probably teach this to the public. So I created some curriculum and a workshop. I still do. It's called Vision is Victory. And I would bring people to that, and then I would end up bringing them into coaching. A lot of them entrepreneurs that didn't have a really clear vision, so they're they were running really expensive hobbies, Nico.
mhm,
No vision, no game plan, no real set thing. So that's organically what happened. Um, so I decided along that time that I was going to start doing a big event every January that everybody would come to. They would have an entire day to sit and write their vision. They would have places they could meet in smaller groups and talk about where they were getting stuck and how, collaborate with each other. I loved it. So it was my signature event I used to do every January.
mhm,
It became literally a 2.5 day event the last time I did it here in Arizona.
mhm.
And that was in 2017. So last summer, I was in 2017 was the year I lost my son. So after he passed, I kind of shut a few things down just to kind of figure stuff out. So last summer, I started getting excited about doing events again,
Yeah,
and I wanted to do it in person. And it just started getting, as you know, events get really expensive and really logistically challenging. So now I'm doing a 5-day virtual summit called Visionary Entrepreneur. At at this date, as you and I are recording, I have 77 speakers already lined up for it.
Wow.
Who knew?
So
Because we started promoting it for speakers about a month ago, and it just opened up this whole thing of all these speakers that wanted to be in it to talk on their topics. So that's going to happen January 13th through the 17th. Again, it's all virtual, all pre-recorded. So an attendee will literally get an email every day saying, here's the lineup of speakers today. Here's the buttons you can click to watch. And then we'll do some live Zooms during the time frame too, that people can come in and network, interact with each other, interact with the speakers. I have 2 keynote speakers lined up. One is David Meltzer, who you and I both really love, and the other is Sharon Lecter, who is one of my very dear friends. They're both good friends and mentors to the world. I mean, they're just amazing. So, and I'm so honored to have them.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting, like when you said when you mentioned drifting, that my mind immediately made that connection.
Mm.
Well, maybe not. I was thinking of
You're thinking of
Outwitting the Devil.
you are thinking about Winnie the Devil, correct?
Was she involved in that project?
She was. I don't know if you know the story behind that book.
Yeah, where it wasn't released.
It was not.
It wasn't published. It
Right.
was written back like almost the same
I
time
love
as
this
Think
story.
and Grow
So
Rich.
Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich,
Yeah.
when that book came out, I'm not going to remember all the details perfectly, but he actually for a year went into a deep depression and was living in the basement of a friend's house for a year, moved himself away from his family.
At what point? What point is that after in the midst of all his writings?
I think it was after Think and Grow Rich was published. Again, I'm not going to remember these details, but this is all in the beginning of Outwitting the Devil, the story of how that book happened. So he got this idea that he was going to write this book as if he's interviewing the devil, asking him how he gets people to not follow their true path.
To drift.
Yes. And drifting is one of the book is one of my top favorites. I recommend
one of
it
the
all the
best.
time. So anyway, that book in it talks about how we dumb people down, basically. And because he mentions some of the organizations that do that, he talks about schools, the government, churches, and so on. His wife was very involved in the church at that point and was scared to death for that book to come out. And so he locked it up in a vault and it sat there for I don't even know how many years until he had passed, his wife had passed, and his wife's sister. And so they decided, I think this was about 2003, to pull the book out of the vault and have it published. And they went to Sharon Lecter to annotate the book.
Mm.
So when you read it, you'll hear Sharon's blurbs in there, kind of deciphering what's happening. And yeah, it's really interesting to listen to it in audio.
Yeah.
Because he does have the devil's voice, right?
It's very dark and ominous.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wanted to talk about within all that, I interestingly enough, is I heard about a book that Napoleon Hill wrote later in his career. I believe it's called Grow Rich and Live a Peaceful Life. Have you ever heard of this?
Not him writing it, but there's several people involved in Think and Grow Rich Foundation.
Yeah.
Including David Meltzer and Sharon Lecter. So it could be somebody else within the foundation that's been given the license to do that.
It's interesting, and I would love, I don't know if we have the space for it right now, but I would love to hear more about the story about why or like how that really happened with Napoleon Hill going into a depression, because I ended up doing a podcast with a guy, incredible conversation, probably one of the more profound ones, was deeply spiritual. And it was talking about how there's like kind of 2 routes you can go in life. Like, you know, when you wake up and you realize how powerful our minds are and you can literally like create your reality and cast the vision. And that's incredible, of course. And then you get to a point where you just realize that it's like this constant, like, I don't have something and then I want something.
Right.
It's like almost you have an urge for something and then you relieve that urge. It's like the way he explained it is like, you know, going to the bathroom. Like you have to go to the bathroom and then you go to the bathroom, and you're just
Right.
like playing that game for your rest of your life if that's the game you play.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next level is really just understanding that we are all just spiritual beings, and we're all
Mm-hmm.
like, it's all about building a relationship with God, and rather than thinking that we have control and we're controlling life, it's
Mm-hmm.
rather just like build a relationship with God and let him
Right.
handle it all,
Right.
which is
You know,
arguably a more peaceful existence.
yeah. And I think some people get there faster than others based on whatever adversity they've been through in life. Because I'm definitely a lot more, um, I'm very A-type personality, but because of what I've been through the past 10 years, there's not a lot that really gets me super upset.
I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, like in my mind, the worst just happened.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me to watch people how they reacted through COVID. Because those people I noticed that had never been through some sort of major adversity in their life, this was their first major adversity,
Dang.
right? So
That's
they're
interesting
out of their
perspective.
mind scared. It was their first, hit with, okay, now I'm going to have PTSD over this. And I didn't even bat an eye over the whole thing.
Right.
So I traveled all the way through it.
It's awesome.
My grandson was born in the middle of it. I
Mm.
was there for that, So I think we're getting to a place where people are starting to, I hope, be a little bit more in the flow, like you're talking about,
Mhm.
and just know that everything has a purpose. No matter how bad it is, it all has a purpose. Hmm.
Yeah, it's wild. I feel like I've had a lot of revelations.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, every day, like
Yeah.
especially within the last like year and a half, even more so. Like I feel like I've always been more evolved, I guess, if that's
Right.
the word, but it's like it's a whole new feeling
Right.
where I'm just like, gosh, like every day I'm starting to like realize like it's not, I have nothing to do with this. This is
Hmm.
not me. I'm just like, God, show me the way. One
Yeah.
thing I've been really sitting with and asking God and praying on is, God, please give me eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to feel.
Hmm.
Just keep on. The more I can tap into that, the more I can hear, the more I can see, the more I can feel Him, the more I can
Right.
understand on what He really wants me to do.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole lesson. Is we're supposed to do that more. Right.
It's been a journey too, because it's like sometimes I feel like I'm really on fire with my faith, and then other times I'm like, what is?
Welcome to the rest of the world. We all are like that.
Yeah.
We are all like that. Even pastors will tell you, like, you have seasons where you're really in it, you're really feeling it, you're really embracing having that quiet time with God and really listening and really feeling connected. And then we get busy,
Yeah.
right? And we forget, oh, yeah, right, I'm not in control of this. So God's got to knock us down again, whatever way that looks like, just to, hey, eyes over here,
Yeah.
right?
Focus on what's
Eyes
important.
right here. This is how, when I read a devotional book in the morning, and the message one way or another, they go always says, I just need your eyes right here,
Mm.
right? It's not about you. I got this.
Mm.
That's why I think it's so important, is from people that we all know and listen to, how important it is to have a quiet time routine in the morning
Yeah.
before you start the day. I can tell the difference when I don't, can't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Whole
it's
different day.
not, even if it's not like the day or even the week, but like if I just dive right into work or like just start getting into things
Right.
without like some type of grounded practice,
Right.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. You wonder why you feel so anxious and nervous or doubtful. It's all how you really start your mind and your heart.
it's all within the practice.
Right.
It's even I had a funny experience. I don't say funny is the word, but it's kind of laughing about it. My good buddy has a sauna and cold plunge at his place, and
Hmm.
we went the other day, and it's been a while since I've done like a deep like hot cold therapy.
Yeah.
And I ended up he actually was just hanging out for a little bit, and then he bounced, and then I was just still chilling there, and I'm like, all right, let's get our money's worth here.
Yeah.
And was in the sauna for like an hour,
Wow.
and was doing a little bit of breath work in there, and just kind of like, I don't say breath work, it was more just like deep breaths, slow deep breaths rather than like intense ones.
Right.
um and then I did some like holds at the end, and then I was like, whoa, this was pretty intense. And then I immediately went and got back into the cold, and all of a sudden I didn't feel like, where am I? I felt like I just,
I hope you weren't alone, because I would be passing out at about this point,
oh
Nico.
yeah, I'm fine. I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, it definitely, there's some direct communion with God there.
Mhm.
And so the more that we can do that, I love getting out in nature. I usually hit Sedona like
Yeah.
once a month, just to continue to like remind me of like, oh wow, he created all this, and then he's got my back as
Right.
long as I'm plugged in with him.
Yeah.
I think I'll be taken care
Right.
of if I
Yeah.
can just stay obedient,
Right.
which obedience is immediate obedience.
Mhm.
Delayed obedience is not obedience.
Right. It's rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since losing my husband and my son, um, organically several things started happening. And one of the things that happened is I won't make this a long story, but I heard a woman talk who can predict things. And she was doing a whole talk talking about what was going to be coming in the country in the next 7 years. Turns out this woman is like a medium. And at the end of her talk, I was in the back of the room, I was there because a friend invited me, not really paying attention, but I started picking up a vibe of this woman she's not in this world, right? Um, and she came up to me afterward and said, "How in the world are you still standing?" And I looked at my friend that brought me there and I said, "What did you tell her?" And she said, I didn't really tell her much." And she proceeded to tell me all these things, Nico, about my husband, about my son. Um, and so little by little, I've had a lot of people come into my life that have been able to bring me messages and signs that I still look for them. And those are kind of my God winks too.
Yeah.
Is that I know when I'm needing a sign, I'm needing affirmation that they are still with me, everything's fine, I'm going in the right direction, I will get exactly what I needed to see. And I don't think we slow down enough to look for that either. Because I think God is trying to show us signs all day long.
He is. For
Mm-hmm.
paying attention.
Mm-hmm. But we have to really focus on that, right? And it's hard for people to. I would have never told you this 12 years ago that I was that kind of person. I would have gone, whatever. Right? But now, I mean, butterflies mean a lot to me. Certain songs, white feathers. It's just interesting how God is just constantly trying to remind us that we're all in his presence all the time. We just have to plug into it.
Yeah.
Gives me a lot of peace. A lot of peace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a pretty cool conversation.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised by that by any means.
Me either. Yeah. No, I'm honored to be able to sit and chat with you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and hanging out. And like what we mentioned, this has been some time coming, so
Yeah.
glad we were able to make it happen.
Yeah. There'll be more, I'm sure.
So so why don't you let anybody watching know more about your event or
Yeah.
anything else that you want to share about them on how they can plug in with you?
Lots of ways. So I have a website, careyconley.com. I'm all over Facebook and Instagram and all the things.
Yeah.
Because we have to be speakers and all coaches and whatnot. And the event is called Visionary Entrepreneur. So you can see that everywhere. We're starting to promote the heck out of it right now.
Cool.
It's totally free to register. Be a great free event for 5 days, January 13th through the 17th.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Last question. I usually ask, it's usually just kind of comes to me. Sometimes I have a same question I ask a lot.
Mm.
But I guess the one that's coming to me is, what would you tell the version of yourself that was just going through it with your husband and with your son passing, like when just at the height of it, what would you say to her, or
Mm.
what would you want her to take away from what you know now?
I think a lot of it we've already said, that I have a higher sense of my purpose now, Nico. So in the moment and the pain, of course, when you're going through this, you're thinking, especially with suicide, because more it totally comes out of the blue most of the time, and it definitely was the case for us. So you're in shock. So you got to give yourself a lot of grace. My daughter and I co-authored a book together, actually, in 2019, 2 years after my son passed, called "Keep Looking Up." And we talk a lot. These are all chapters on what we learned in the journey,
Mm.
because we were very public with our story. Um, and people would come to us and say, "How do we help you? Or how do we help other people?" And so we wrote that book so that we could share some of the things that we learned in the journey. So one of the things we tell people is you just have to give yourself a lot of grace.
Mm.
We're so hard on ourselves to get through the emotion faster. Let's just get through this, so we can get to the other side and get through the pain. I've just learned that the pain I have is always going to be here. It's just I have to shift my perspective too, but it's not going to be forever, right?
Mm.
I know that we will all be together, right? So I think it's really the big thing is just, if I were to tell her, then just give yourself a lot of time to get through this, and know that God's got a plan, and it's a blip on the radar.
Yeah. We zoom out far enough,
Hmm.
we're a tiny little speck on this tiny little rock
Right.
in this middle of galaxies upon galaxies,
Hmm.
and we're concerned about our
Yeah.
computer not working or something.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. And I have people who do that for me, come to me and go, "Okay, well, let's put this in perspective right now." Um, but again, I don't get upset. I don't get really majorly. I will get anxious every once in a while, but I won't get like sideways for long, because I just know in the end of the thing, it's just, what does it matter? Really matter?
We're all
Yeah.
from the same place. We're all
Right.
going back to the same
Exactly.
place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great question. Thank
Well,
you.
cool. Anything, any last words that you want to share?
No, I just really am always wanting people to know that they have a purpose. And if they don't know what it is, to take some time and actually get some things out of your head and out of your heart that really matter to you.
Hmm.
That day in my late 20s when I sat down to write, it just flowed out of me of who I really wanted to become, what kind of a lifestyle did I really want for myself, for my future children, um, the environment I wanted to live in, the relationship I wanted to have with my husband. I just got really, really clear on what was important. And then I just I left myself up open to having it, receiving it. So go figure it out. What do you want?
Yeah. Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again for
Thank
being
you.
here.
No, loved every minute of it.
Yeah.